Alright, hey guys, how's it going? I'm back with a new Destiny 2 video. This one's going to be covering the newly revealed exotic class items for Prismatic. Yesterday they showed off all the possible combinations in each of the columns, so we can now see what exactly we can mix and match on these exotic pieces. So I want to take a quick look at some of the combinations. I did a previous recording reading all these, descriptions out, and that came to like 30 minutes, which I think might be a bit too long for people. You can let me know if that's something you'd want. I could definitely post that, but I'm gonna assume you know what all these do already. Keep in mind, a lot of these don't have the exact same functions as their exotic pieces. A lot of them are missing an aspect of that, and it can be a pretty small thing that doesn't matter too much, but it also can be missing like pretty crucial pieces. So I'll go ahead and just rank these all, and then we can go from there. I think Spirit of the Assassin is highly dependent on how good melee is for Warlock, because we've never been a very melee focused class. A lot of these melee things don't interact really well with Warlock melees. I know all these ranged melees don't work with 1-2 punch, for example, so a lot of that's up in the air, and it's a very big question mark right now. So we don't know exactly the strengths of melee, so I'm just going to have this as yellow, just pretty middle of the road. I think if melees are super great, it'll be pretty good. I don't know if it'll be, like S tier super great or anything, but I don't think this is ever useless either, because turning invisible is very nice, keeps you alive. Spirit of Inmost Light. We're missing the damage portion of this exotic, which is a pretty big deal. So this is now just a kind of energy battery for spamming abilities. We'll have to see kind of how it works in practice. Maybe when you transcend, this thing gets very crazy. So we kind of have to wait and see. But it has the potential to go, from meh, I think, to good. This is the range. Spirit of the Ophidian. I think no point running this, really. It's just weapon handling. It doesn't even have the reload portion of it. For PvP, I'm sure it's great. I've always been focused on the PvE aspect of the game. No point running this, PvE-wise. Spirit of the Stag. I'd say pretty middle of the road. It's damage reduction in a rift. It keeps you alive. It's very nice. I don't know if that's super great, but we'll have to see. But I think this is just meh. I don't know if it'll ever be like fantastic to use, but I'm sure there'll be some niche things with this that could be nice. Spirit of the Filaments. I think this all depends on how good it's going to be to cheat out a third aspect for Prismatic, because you can opt to not run Feed the Void, and you still have a way to get Devour, which is very nice. But if you're not running Feed the Void, you have the nerfed Devour that they did, like a month or two ago. So you're going to have a lesser version of Devour if you run this. And you also have to run specifically Empowering Rift, which is kind of a big deal, because I'd say like 90% of Warlocks run Healing Rift. So you have a weak Devour, you have to use Empowering Rift. We have to see how strong it is to cheat out a third aspect with this, and there might still be some crazy combos with that lessened grenade energy. So I think all these things in the air, it could range from just meh. I don't know if it's meta good, but yeah, we'll say maybe good. This one, not 100% on. Necrotic Grips. If these work like they do right now, this is maybe best in slot, just for kind of overall play. It's very nice to use this with the Weapons of Sorrow, Thorn, Osteo, Necrochasm, and Touch of Malice. All very nice. interactions with the poison there. If it doesn't have any of those poison interactions, there's no point running this. I think it'd be trash then. I don't think... No one really uses this already if they're not using any Weapon of Sorrow, you know? So if it works for those, great. It's going to be very nice to have that. This is basically the whole exotic perk. So you have this for neutral game, and then you can run something else in the second column to either further boost that, or you can run something that increases your super. It could be very, very nice. I'm very excited for this one, if it works as it works right now. Osteomancy gloves. This is one of the biggest, I think, question marks we have right now. We don't know what exactly hits means here. Grenade recharges quicker on hits. We don't know what that means, really. Because, for example, healing grenade doesn't deal damage. So is that possible to get a hit? Can you get a hit with that? Is it every time an ally gets healed by it, it counts? We don't know. For vortex grenade, is every tick of the vortex count as a hit? I think that'd be pretty crazy if true, but we just don't know yet. Storm grenade could be pretty good. For cold snap grenades, it might be better off just to run just the actual stasis class, because we're missing out on ice flare bolts, which is super nice to have. So it remains to be seen if this will be worth running in Prismatic, just as cold snaps. And then threadling grenade. This is the only one where I'm pretty sure on hit will work as you'd think, where it's just when those 3 threadlings attack something, you'll get recharge for each threadling. So you'll get like an instance of recharge 3 times. So that could be very nice, because Osteomancy just gives a ton of regen already with like cold snaps for stasis. You can be throwing those out almost constantly. So if you could do the same with threadling grenade, that could be very nice. We don't know yet if we have that threadling damage fragment that's on stasis. I think that's a big part of making threadlings good, because they're a bit lackluster without that. Maybe threadlings will just get buffed overall, and this will be very nice, but we don't know yet. So I think this can range, depending on what on hits means. It could be meh, but it could also be super, super great. Spirit of Apotheosis. This thing, I think this is also, it could be whatever, but it could be pretty good too. I think if you're running it right now, you're running it with fusion nades, most likely, and we don't have access to that on Prismatic. So it remains to be seen how good that's going to be. Like, I don't think throwing vortex grenades out everywhere is that good, or storm grenades, or cold snaps. Threadlings could be good depending on if they get buffed or something. And then throwing out these melees, none of them seem that crazy to me. If this interacts with Song of Flame at all, that could be very cool, because you throw out a ton of melees and grenades with that. But since it states after your super ends, it might not work until after Song of Flame ends. But if it works like it does with Well, where the second you cast it, you get the buff, it could be very good. So kind of depending on how that interaction works will depend on how good it is. That's kind of the theme with a lot of these. It's just kind of, we have to wait to test it on our own. Second column, Star Eaters. I think this is just good. It's just your super does more damage. You're going to be using this with Nova Bomb and Needle Storm. I don't think you use it with Winter's Wrath ever, or Storm Trance, really. And Song of Flame remains to be seen if this has any interaction with that at all, because you're not really doing damage. You're throwing out grenades, and your weapons do more damage, and you're tossing melees. We don't know if this affects that at all. So if that does, that could be a very cool interaction, but we just don't know yet. Spirit of Synthoceps. Again, we've got this big kind of elephant in the room, this big question. We don't know if melee Warlock is going to be any better with Prismatic. Assuming it stays the way it is right now, I don't think this would be very good. I think it'd almost not be worth running. But if they do a lot of things to it, it could be very nice. And there's already a few interactions you can see. You can see like the arc aspect, lightning surge, that sliding melee. I think that paired with arcane needle, so you have 3 charges, could be very nice. And you slide in melee with Syntheseps, that melee is going to absolutely just demolish that group of ads you're sliding into. I don't see it being that good with any of the other melees, really. A lot of this Prismatic Warlock stuff kind of has very utility-based melees. I think Pocket Singularity, you would never run the Void one. Chain Lightning is very, very weak, so unless that gets a substantial buff, I don't think you'd run it. Penumbral Blast is very utility-based. It's just nice to have a on-demand freeze, but that thing doesn't do damage really. So increasing the melee damage of that doesn't matter. Arcane Needle, it's ranged, so it's going to be kind of harder to be surrounded when you use that. Because ideally, or I don't know, I think the purpose of it is more to apply Unravel rather than deal damage with it. I don't think many people ever blow all 3 charges on one enemy to deal damage. It's more of a throw it to apply Unravel to a group. And then Incinerator Snap is very nice. That's a very good melee. That with Syntheseps, if that like increases the Scorch or the Ignition damage, that could be pretty cool. So there's a wide range on this. We don't know exactly how all this will work, but it'll be exciting to see. Next up, Spirit of Verity. We're missing the very important aspect of grenade regen with this. The exotic itself gives you a stacking grenade regen buff as well with each of these death row stacks, and you also get a buff that you give to your allies when you throw your grenade, and they get very greatly enhanced grenade regen. And you can kind of stack that. You can have 2 people running this, and you're kind of batteries for each other for grenade energy. So we're missing that, so you're going to need another source of ability regen. If that's a viable thing to get, this could be very good. If not, I think there's probably better things to run in this column. And especially with the grenades we have right now, this doesn't interact with Healing Grenade at all. Vortex Grenade, pretty good. Storm Grenade, not bad. Cold Snap, you don't care about the damage on that. It doesn't really deal damage, really. It just freezes things. So no point with that. Threadling Grenade could be good. Could be good. So we have 3 grenades you can use this with. This could work with the Transcendent Grenade. I don't know if you'd have to match your default grenade, or if you'd have to, I don't know, you'd have to match one of the elements that Transcendent Nade is. There might not be any interaction, but if there is an interaction, and let's say if you're running Healing Nade and you're using a solar weapon and you're at ×5 and you transcend and you throw your super grenade, if that deals double damage, this could be very nice. So I'd say it ranges from meh to could be very, very strong. You're gonna have to juggle this ×5 stack. Spirit of Vesper is missing the blinding aspect of it, which kind of makes the exotic, at least in things like Onslaught, where you can drop this on a spawn point and none of those enemies can attack, and they're also just getting blasted with the arc shockwaves. So missing that, I think it's not that good. Maybe if you can throw out a bunch of rifts at a time and you can have like 2 or 3 of these on the field, it could be okay. But I'm not too sure. I think this could be bad. Maybe there's some, small world where it's okay with all these rifts everywhere. I'm not too sure. I'm not sold on it at all. Spirit of Harmony is missing the ×4 surge once your super is full, which sucks a lot, but this is just basically just a super energy battery, which is nice. I don't know if it's like fantastic. If this was in a different column than Star Eater, that would be a very, very crazy combo to run, but it isn't. So I think it's just meh. there's not a ton of insane combos in this first tree that like pair with this really well. I'd say like, I don't know, the main one would maybe be Necrotics, but all those weapons are kinetic, all those weapons of sorrow. So there's no real interaction between these two. Starfire is missing a big part of the exotic text, which reads, you know, those grenade kills give you back your empowering rift. So you're missing that. You're missing the double grenade charge too, which isn't a big deal, I think. But you have to run empowering rift again, which kind of sucks. I mean, you could not, but then the only way you would be able to access this at all would be well, because that gives empowered. It gives like a weird, I don't know. It's like, it's the same damage buff as Radiant, because empowered I think is only 20%. Radiant's 25, I think. It's less than Radiant, but Rift, or well rather, is the same as Radiant, but it doesn't count as Radiant technically. So the only way you could proc this is with empowering Rift, realistically, because otherwise you'd have to use someone else as well, because you can't run well on this class, and well might not even be changed. You know, maybe they'll do more with empowered as a buff. We'll have to see. But you need some way of charging up your Rift if you want to run this, because it's missing that part of the exotic, that you just intrinsically have this throw a Rift down, throw a grenade, you get a new Rift, use your Rift, deal damage, get your grenade back. It's missing that gameplay loop. So you kind of have to use another one of these over here to fix that loop. But at that point, it's almost just, I don't know, you just run the exotic itself. I'd say this one's a little hard to rate, I think. I'll be optimistic that they do some more with Empower. It's just middle of the road. Spirit of the Swarm, absolute useless, terrible. I think, for me at least, I'm assuming others too. I think you're running Swarmers for the unraveling from Threadlings. Having Threadlings not unravel sucks big time, and unless there's a way to make them unravel through like a fragment or something in Prismatic, I think this is just bad. And even if they do unravel, I don't even know what I'm saying. This is bad regardless, because it just makes Threadlings drop from a tingle, which isn't that good. You're going to be having less tingles than if you're just running Strand. I think they only drop 2, maybe 3 when you destroy a tingle. It's just not worth. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Not good. Not good. Not good. Spirit of the Claw, also I think just bad. If you're wanting to do some crazy melee build, I think you're always going to be running Arcane Needle, which gives you 3 melee charges already. You could run that with that and have 4, but I don't think that does anything. It doesn't do anything really. And I don't think having a double stack for any of these other melees does anything really. I think it's just better to index into like melee regen instead, and have your melee up more often than having 2 charges of it, and then once you use both, you're basically, this doesn't do anything anymore. I've never been a fan of Claws of Ahamkara, really. So, looking at some of the synergies between these, we have like the obvious, like just matching melee things with more melee things. So we have, you know, Assassin with Syntheseps, or it's kind of useless, but Assassin with Spirit of the Claw. I think the Syntheseps one definitely is better value. Like if we use the Arc Lightning Surge aspect and we slide in, do a electricity melee, we wipe that group and then we're invisible, that could be pretty cool. So that could be nice to run. Looking over here, Star Eater just works with everything, because it's like completely independent. It works by itself. It's just picking up orbs makes your super do more. So it's pretty standalone. It works with everything. Spirit of Inmost Light is going to be, if it works well and it's pretty substantial, this is your energy battery for a lot of skills. So it could work with Synthoseps to get your melee up more quickly, and that melee does more damage. With Verity, there could be a lot of cool kind of things with this. You're kind of just replacing the missing part of Verity's. You're kind of just using the exotic itself. Might just be better off to have that exotic helmet equipped. but you'll have more grenades and rifts as well. It could be good with Vesper of Radius to maybe throw down more rifts, but I'm not sure how good that's going to be. It could be good with Starfire, just because you don't have a way of getting that rift back with this perk standalone. So you need something to get that rift back. This could help a lot. Oh, I don't know if you want to run it with Claws to get that melee charge. Don't do Claws of Ahamkara unless it's PvP maybe. Inmost Light, I think, could work with... It can work with all these, because it's kind of just the battery to get these ability combos going. Ophidians, don't run it in PV. It doesn't do anything really. Stag, no, it could work with anything because it's just damage resist, but the obvious thing is just to pair it with Vesper or Starfire. You're already required to use a Rift to activate these. Now it gives you damage resist, which is nice. You don't have the blinding on Vesper, so that damage resist kind of makes up for it. And Starfire will let you kind of live in your Rift because it has to be an empowering Rift, so it kind of replaces the need for a healing Rift because you're going to be running empowering, so it kind of helps in that regards. Filaments, kind of the same thing. You run it with Vesper, you run it with Starfire. Same thing as the Stag. Use it with other Rift things. Has more synergy with Starfire because they both need an empowering Rift thing. And this will also help with the grenade recharging of Starfire because it gives you Devour. It's going to be the weaker Devour unless you're running Feed the Void, which I think you don't really need the filaments, but you're going to be getting more grenade regen on these final blows here. And this can also be used with then Verity, just because it gives you Devour, but that's kind of just because of the Devour aspect. I think if you're doing Spirit of Verity, you're better off running the Feed the Void for the improved Devour, but it is an option. Necrotic, you can run with pretty much everything. If I was to choose, I would just do, I think, Necrotic with Star Eater would be my go-to. Just because Necrotic's a very strong neutral game. Star Eater helps with DPS. They're both kind of... you don't have to work for it, really. They just flow with each other if you're using a Weapon of Sorrow. Osteomancies has a lot of potential, depending on how well it works. It could work with Starfire. It could work with Verity. That's not as much as I thought. But if it works with these two, those are two very strong combinations. To have, grenades already recharging from this, and then they do more, and same with this. And then for Apotheosis Veil, it depends a lot on this stuff, but I think the number one go-to would be with Verity. If you can keep this Verity buff up while Apotheosis is active, you're going to be able to throw a lot of double damage grenades, which could be very, very strong. We'll have to see. And then also Apotheosis with Starfire, or Star Eater, sorry, just to double down on the super thing. So your super does a lot more damage, and then afterwards you can throw a ton of stuff out. That could be very cool. My little linking lines have made this look very, very ugly, but you get the gist of it, I think. A lot of these we'll have to test once it's out. We don't know how these things interact, but those are my thoughts. I might cover Prismatic as a whole. There's kind of a lot of cool interactions, but we need to see the rest of the fragments and the rest of these balance changes to know how this is all going to work together. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think. Let me know what combos you're excited to get, what things you've been theory crafting. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Take care. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.